Welcome to the quick hitter version of Buckets, Boards, and Blocks. This week, our featured conversation is with ESPN feature writer Katie Barnes. We discuss the WNBA's tie-in to the historic Georgia runoff election. Kelly Loeffler, Raphael Warnock is going to become a U.S. Senator, first Black Democratic Senator in Georgia. On the surface, one might just be like, oh, this is history. This is cool. But please, Katie, just take folks back to the sports tie-in that was huge this summer. And I know you're someone that has covered the W very diligently, so I can't wait to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so, Kelly Loeffler is more than just a senator that was appointed by Brian Kemp following the retirement of another Georgia senator. She also is a co-owner of the WNBA franchise, the Atlanta Dream, which she has been involved with initially starting in 2010 and then taking over as majority co-owner with Mary Brock in 2011. So she owns a WNBA team, and if anyone has been paying attention to the W over the last 3 years or so, they've been really outspoken on a number of issues. And Kelly Loeffler decided, as a part of her political campaign, that she was going to run really hard to the right, and came out and said some pretty inflammatory things about Black Lives Matter in particular. In the middle of the uprisings and protests that occurred after the death of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd this summer. And in response, the players of the WNBA, including her own team, donned Vote Warnock shirts and really made it very clear that they were in favor of her losing her Senate seat. And that really, I think it's important to note that at the time, Warnock was polling in the single digits behind another Democratic candidate, Lieberman, who was like at 9%. And he came back, made it through that primary, which is called a jungle primary, meaning it's just a big primary that when the top two go on to compete in a head-to-head matchup in the special elections, which was resolved last night and called early this morning. So it has been a wild few months, and the W is pretty front and center the whole time.
Ooh. Oh my God, I am so proud. Like, I know there were so many people tweeting today, Black women to the rescue again and again and again. And I don't want to trivialize that because this, to me, Katie, was so strategic by the W. I do remember when Loeffler's statements came down and there were some questions about whether or not Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner, could exert power and cause her to either lose her ownership in the dream or whatever the case may be. Ultimately, leadership did not go that way. But what do you think it is that allowed these women to lock in and go this route in terms of taking a stance?
What I think is so interesting about the W is that when you look at just in general the rise of athlete activism over the course of the last 4 years, going back to I think 2016, where we saw the Minnesota Lynx come out in against police brutality, and then of course that fall, Colin Kaepernick started kneeling. I think that's really when we had just a true moment for athletes that has just been building. Is that the players in the W have been front and center and leading on these issues, not just in terms of the things that they say, but really about the stuff that they do. So for me, this isn't just about, the Atlanta Dream and everybody in the W wore Vote Warnock shirts and then he won. No, they organized, they campaigned, they very much made a concerted effort to go out and put something in action that they believed in. And whether or not you agree with that stance, to me, that's really powerful that this group of people really took a stance and mobilized to make that happen. And we haven't seen that level of collective action when it comes to activism and organizing on the part of athletes. I'm hard pressed to say ever. I think the closest thing would be some of the actions that were taken in the 60s by athletes that were pretty, significant. I don't mean to minimize, the impact there, but in terms of just a collective entity doing something like this, to me, that is really what stands out. It's been, I think, really interesting to watch from a reporting perspective, but it's been really powerful in terms of just the impact that people can have when they want to. Like these aren't wealthy people. Like nobody's out here with like LeBron James money. Like this was just blood, sweat, and tears and like real organizing. And in that sense, I think it's really inspiring.
With the success that they've seen as far as the actions that they've taken, like what do you think is next for this group? Because it seems like these women can do almost anything, like anything they put their minds to, that they can achieve. So what do you think is next for the WNBA?
I think that's a really great question, and I don't know the answer to that. Not to like duck the question. I just like, I think in many ways, I think time will tell. What I think has been really great about the W is, these players have organized, they have achieved something pretty great in terms of just the scale and the scope of it, um, while also having a cultural moment, which is really cool. So, like, not only is Warnock going to the Senate, but like the orange hoodie is the fashion statement of the year when it comes to, like as named by the Sports Business Journal. Like, that's pretty awesome. And so, for me, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how, as we start to hopefully see the pandemic wane and folks re-engage with sport in hopefully in person ways, what that's going to mean for the WNBA. I think they could be, really poised to have a special next couple of seasons.
If you'd like to hear more from us and Katie Barnes, check out the full version of Buckets, Boards, and Blocks from Pure Hoops Media. Hey, we're also on YouTube, so check us out.